I was born with a strange gift.
Hey everyone, I'm Soha from 4Player
The ability
Network.
to see
When this game was
no
first announced,
human
I
being
had my
has ever
concerns.
seen
The
before.
teasers were intriguing and the visuals were stunning,
It's
but
all
I'll fully
mixed up
admit
in
that I
my
am
head.
not a fan of David Cage's
The
work in
images,
Heavy Rain or
the
Indigo
sounds, the
Prophecy.
smell.
Beyond Two Souls, however, had a certain je ne sais quoi
I need
that
to
made me look forward to giving it a shot, and I was pleasantly
put things
surprised.
in
The
order
narrative's
right
first
up to
act
the
is strong
end.
enough to overlook the clumsy and often unresponsive
Remember who I
controls,
am.
but unfortunately this is short-lived,
If
and
I
the
had
game
to say how
ultimately
it all
falls on
began,
its fucking face.
I might just as well start here.
The story is set up in nonlinear segments that narrate events in Jodie's life and, most importantly, her relationship with the psychic entity linked to her named Aiden. It's an interesting plot structure, but the novelty starts to wear off, especially when I realized I had no idea what was going on even after several hours into the game. The segments themselves are awkwardly paced, with some lasting 20 minutes and some lasting 2 hours, and reminded me of longer versions of the trailers used to market the game, where instead of presenting concrete ideas and progressive story elements, we're just shown disconnected snippets that leave us confused and unsatisfied. Playing through Jodie's life became repetitive, tiring, and unrewarding, and even sometimes disorienting, especially when the story flips back and forth between intense action sequences and menial tasks like cleaning up Jodie's apartment and making dinner for her date. Navigating through the plot overall felt like I was masturbating for hours with a topical numbing cream to ensure I pointlessly never achieve an orgasm.
Oh, I get nowhere.
A refreshing twist to the dry pace is the ability to sometimes play as Aiden. Aiden can see the atmosphere surrounding Jodie, possess other NPCs, and manipulate objects. This steers all the stealth sequences in Jodie's CIA missions and gives players the opportunity to make enemies kill each other or themselves. The dichotomy between Jodie and Aiden is peculiar. Jodie is innocent and sympathetic, even when the player makes decisions that are cruel or difficult, whereas Aiden is a sociopathic dick who can sometimes be out of Jodie's control and even turn against her in a jealous rage. While the story is primarily about their relationship, it could have been explored further, as it was the only part of the game that still kept me interested after the plot of Ghosts versus the World became stale and tone-deaf. It was beaten into my brain that yes, there is a problem in their relationship, but that problem is never developed enough for us to really care. Plus, even with the unique implementation of Aiden, the controls to guide him were frequently unclear, which became frustrating in a game that is already discouraging. The gameplay is, well, non-existent. There's a timeout for dialogue options if you don't feel like choosing whether or not to be sarcastic or naive, depending on the conversation, and there are zero consequences if you do decide to choose how to make Jodie respond to the characters around her. If you don't perform the correct prompts during QTEs, then Jodie can still maneuver through fights, just with a little bit more crying and groaning than usual. Walking in a straight line without getting stuck on a texture is rare, and when it's go time, characters don't seem to understand the concept of walking a little faster. The failure of meeting prompts also results in jarring animations that made me feel more seasick than immersed, and frequently the prompts are obscured against the environment or are not given at all. David Cage once said that game overs are a failure of game design, but I could hardly keep a straight face if I was to say that what he chose to do with Beyond is considered a success.
Not bad.
The problem with Beyond Two Souls is that it's ambitious yet unprepared to decide what it wants to be. Its intriguing blend of sci-fi and the paranormal ends up being its own worst enemy. It sets up several plot lines that confuse the story with a botched attempt to conclude the clusterfuck in one clean sweep, which doesn't work. That je ne sais quoi I mentioned earlier could be best described as potential, and this game has plenty if it could only commit to being one coherent story. Similarly to Heavy Rain and Indigo Prophecy, the plot twists don't work with what the first act of the narrative sets up, and it felt like Quantic Dream created a nonsensical ad-libs game one drunk and messy night. The true failure of game design is refusing to work within the boundaries of your own narrative, and then take yourself seriously for it. The outrageous plots of David Cage might work should he ever divorce from the film auteur pipe dream, but until he decides to embrace the absurd and stop loving the smell of his own shit, these games will only continue to fall apart. So go ahead and pick up Beyond Two Souls if you want to see how to not make a game, and prepare for a narcissistic, boring, and ineffectual adventure.